Hello, my name is Holly Walton, and today I'm going to be talking to you about our project, which was a rapid prioritisation of adult social care innovations for evaluation, and I'm going to be considering some reflections and considerations of this process. So please feel free to email me or tweet me if you have any questions, and just to say a huge thank you to our co-authors and to acknowledge that this work was done as part of the Reset Embrace Rapid Evaluation Team work programmes. So why was rapid prioritisation necessary? So in recent years, many innovations have been developed to improve adult social care across the UK. However, these innovations are often not evaluated. Therefore, there is a lack of information to guide decisions about wider implementation of these innovations throughout the UK. So what did we aim to do? So in July 2019, Reset Embrace were asked to conduct a rapid horizon scanning and prioritisation process to identify a short list of adult social care innovations for evaluation. So in this presentation, I'm going to describe the methods and findings of rapid prioritisation that we used, and I'm going to reflect on the strengths and challenges associated with rapid methodology. So what do we mean by rapid in the context of this project? So in July, we were asked to identify these innovations. In August, we began to compile the stakeholder list and email requests for innovations. In September, we compiled a long list and shortened this long list. In October, we held a workshop, and in November, we submitted the NIHR report. So as you'll see, this whole process took 4 months in total. So how were the priority innovations identified? So to identify innovations, we used an adapted version of the James Lind Alliance prioritisation process. And I'm going to briefly outline the 4 steps that we used here, but I'm going to go more detail into each one of these in the next few slides. So the first step was to identify the innovations. The second step was to develop some criteria that we could use to judge the innovations against. The third step was to group and sift these innovations. And the fourth step was to hold a workshop to prioritise the innovations. So for the first step, to identify innovations, we sent emails to 182 individuals or organisations with knowledge of social care. So what did we ask them? We asked them to answer the question, what are the most interesting innovations in social care and/or social work that you are aware of, which you think would benefit from being evaluated? We ended up with 154 innovations suggested by 59 individuals or organisations. Innovations were suggested by charities, universities, local councils, academic health science networks, health and social care partnerships, government teams, social care enterprises, professional bodies and NHS trusts. So the next step was to develop some criteria that we could judge these innovations against and use to narrow the list of innovations down. So the first criteria was that the innovation needed to fit within our scope of what an innovation is. And in this project we were quite broad and we included all types of innovations. The innovation needed to focus on adult social care. It needed to take place within the 4 nations of the UK. It needed to provide enough detail to understand what the innovation was. It needed to focus on social care and social work. It needed to be amenable to evaluation, and within this we evaluated whether it would be possible to rapidly evaluate the innovation or whether it would need to be evaluated over a longer time frame. And it needed to focus on a relevant social care outcome. So once we'd got these criteria, we could then use them to group and sift the innovations. So for the initial sifting, the criteria was applied to all innovations by 2 researchers. A social care expert then evaluated all innovations. Some innovations were excluded at this stage, but we were mostly inclusive, so we didn't want to exclude any innovations at this stage that we were unsure of. So then, to further sift the criteria, the whole team met to discuss the innovations, and we judged these against a slightly stricter criteria to make sure that the innovations definitely met the criteria that we'd set. Because this was a rapid process and we sort of understood how quickly we'd done this, we also wanted to apply some extra checks. So we checked the innovations included against the 6 innovations in social care report to make sure that we weren't missing any innovations, and a subject expert also reviewed the final list and added any missing innovations in at this stage too. So we ended up with 20 innovations that were then included. So we then took these 20 innovations to a prioritisation workshop. 23 participants attended the workshop, and this included people who use adult social care services, practitioners, academics or researchers, commissioners, policymakers and carers. So we ended up with the top 5 priorities for evaluation, and these were care coordination for dementia in the community, family group conferencing, Greenwich Prison social care, local area coordination and MySense AI. Now, as you'll see, these innovations are in alphabetical order, and that's because we didn't manage to exactly rank all 5 in the time we had for the workshop. So we managed to rank the top 5 but didn't rank within these. And as you'll see, the top 5 priorities agreed included a range of innovations for a variety of target groups. These included older adults, people living with dementia, people living with mental health conditions, and the prison population. The top 5 innovations range from community innovations to digital technologies. But you might be thinking, what influenced this decision making? And during the workshop, we identified a number of influences. So the first was that the participants wanted to ensure a mix of innovations to be evaluated. So participants spoke about wanting to make sure that the list of innovations that were prioritised included community-centred, family or individual-centred and technological innovations. The second factor was sources of funding, and participants spoke about prioritisation of private versus public sector innovations, and also participants spoke about choosing innovations on likely demand given budget cuts. The third factor was the innovations target groups. So participants tended to focus on underrepresented groups or groups that they felt were neglected in social work or that had unmet needs. Another factor was the potential for impact on people's lives and wider community, and those with more impact on people's lives and wider community were ranked more highly. The role of personal experience was also important, so this could take form in a number of ways. So this included personal family experience or experience of working with client groups that were mentioned in the innovation. And prioritisation of similar innovations. So participants were mindful that they wanted to include one of each type of similar innovations, but not more than one of a similar group. So for example, there were quite a few artificial intelligence innovations, and participants spoke about wanting to include one of those rather than all of them in the top 5. The innovativeness of the innovation was also important, so those innovations that were felt to be more innovative were ranked more highly. And the extent of evidence or research that's already available or in progress was a key factor. So innovations without much evidence or perceptions that there wasn't much research in progress were prioritised over those that had this evidence already. And the language used in the innovation was also felt to be important. So in the last few slides, I've described the process that we went through to prioritise these innovations and also the key findings from the process. But I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes reflecting on what worked well and what the challenges were of this process as well. So to start with the strengths, so we conducted a rapid prioritisation process, and this had the strength of being timely. So it was important to find out what social care innovations were prioritised as being those that should be evaluated in a timely way, and this rapid process really enabled us to do that. It was also very relevant for the above reason, so it was a key question that needed answering with high relevance, and the rapid process enabled us to answer this well. Despite the rapid process, we managed to build on previous prioritisation process methodology, so this creates more validity of the methods that we used. And we also used robust and replicable methodology, so we tried to include quality checks throughout to make sure that we were doing as robust of a job as possible despite the rapid process. So, for example, using 2 researchers to apply criteria and having a 3rd researcher with expertise in that area to check over those findings. However, there were some challenges, and these were mainly focused on the short time frame with which the rapid process took place. So the first one is that some innovations may have been missed from the shortlist, and this is despite us trying to make sure that we asked as many individuals and organisations as possible for suggestions. Secondly, some innovations may have already been or currently were being evaluated, and this was difficult to evaluate within a rapid time frame because we could only go off the limited information that people suggested, but also the information that was available on websites. So we did have a step of checking information against websites and things like that, but there was no extra time to sort of email the developers and ask them for more details. So that's a key limitation of this process. So, to conclude, this approach was successful in rapidly identifying a large number of innovations and prioritising the top 5 adult social care and social work innovations for evaluation. 2 of these innovations have now been taken forward for evaluation by the 2 rapid evaluation teams, and there is a scope for prioritised innovations to inform future adult social care evaluations. Thank you so much for listening. We would love to hear your questions and comments. To send these, please comment below the video, tweet me or email me. And to find out more about Reset or Brace, please have a look at their websites, and to find out more about the project, please click the link on the slide. So just to say a huge thank you to our funders, to the wider Reset and Brace team members for their support and involvement, and thank you to everyone who suggested innovations and or attended and participated in the workshop.